Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Chronic Yet Undefeated Podcast. My name is Kaylin, and I'll be your host during this unrelenting journey through various topics surrounding chronic illness. Over the years, chronic illness has been something that matters to me and weighs on my heart, especially as someone that has had epilepsy for now over 20 years. At times, I feel like I was put in a world that wasn't always made for me, and I want others out there to know that they aren't alone in the sufferings that can come with being chronically ill. I hope that this podcast will be uplifting, encouraging, and a good source of perspective for those that struggle with illness, caregivers, healthcare providers, and for all the curious listeners out there that are taking their time to learn about the challenges the chronically ill community faces. To start with, thank you so much for tuning in. I've been planning to give this podcast a go for some time now. Finding that opportune moment hasn't always been easy, and finding that perfect moment to record, to have the energy to do it, and frankly, I've been a bit nervous, so it's been a struggle, but I know I can't give up. And I want people to know that when you have chronic illness, that your life isn't over. It's only different than what society expects or places as the norm. I think that's why so many of us are hard on ourselves. Society says, go to college and get a good career. Perhaps some of us out there have chronic illness and have a good career, but I'm thinking that many of us don't, because it can be incredibly difficult to keep a job, and some jobs have high physical demands that we can't do. We have to take extra steps to find what we can do and what we can't, which is going to look different for everyone. However, if you're chronically ill and have a great career idea, please post it in the comments. Many of us struggle to come up with ideas that we can do, and maybe it'll give us all some insight on unique career ideas that maybe we haven't even thought of. But really, doesn't society, and I'm speaking from a USA standpoint, place such a high importance to the on-the-go lifestyle? I mean, how many kids these days are literally so overloaded with extracurricular activities that they don't have time to simply be kids, to hang out with their friends, and enjoy a low-stress life? How many people out there only have a few moments to talk or reach out because they're always busy? How many parents or caregivers out there are rushing back and forth from place to place to get things done all day long on such little sleep because they have young children at home? Kids that struggle with bedtime, or a family member or loved one they constantly worry about. What about those that are single out there carrying a heavy weight while trying to maintain a job and take care of their own expenses without the help of others? Some of us with chronic illness often are out of that on-the-go loop because our bodies simply don't allow it, which makes us seem different, and it's often isolating. Some of us might be stuck in that on-the-go loop and are barely hanging on to. Pressing that on-the-go lifestyle can be so compromising when you have chronic illness. A lot of us may not be able to maintain it, or if we can for a time, we reach total burnout, and we do so seemingly faster than our peers. It could take us days to recover from it at that point. There have been times I know I have pushed it with little sleep, extra coffee, and kept going in that vicious loop. I started craving more and more rest even though I stayed tired and busy at times. And after a point, I eventually couldn't push it anymore, and my body made time for me to rest. But it's okay to rest too. We all need rest. So many that engage with the on-the-go lifestyle are sometimes creating a health disaster for themselves without even realizing it. So if they don't take the time they need to energize and heal, then that's going to be a problem in the future. And that goes for people that aren't chronically ill. So what do they seriously expect of someone that does have chronic illness? We can't press our bodies that way. We have to be at peace with getting rest. Speaking of social expectations, when I was a teenager, it was so expected by many kids to get a driver's license by the time they were 16. Most of us have probably been there, and it was a rite of passage and such a huge perk of being an older teen. Even if you weren't wanting to drive at 16, you probably had that one friend that wanted to drag you into driver's ed kicking and screaming so they wouldn't be alone. With my epilepsy diagnosis, it was difficult knowing already that I couldn't legally drive. I didn't want to explain myself to my friends and was rather okay with being a stick in the mud. When my siblings got a bit older, they'd complain that my parents wouldn't take them out to practice driving enough and that they didn't want to have to renew their permit. I couldn't stand it. I finally lost it one day and just started yelling at the fact that they should at least be grateful that they could drive at all, because I couldn't even try to learn. It was dead silence after that. It was difficult to face that I was growing up and walking against a lot of these social norms simply because of my epilepsy. That made me different than everyone else. It made me feel isolated, unimportant, and left behind when it came to being around other teens. What I wish people understood is that it's difficult when the chronically ill crowd sees their friends and family taking 10 steps ahead while we take 15 steps back, trying to force that misshapen puzzle piece of chronic illness to fit in with the rest of life that we want to have. Truth is, chronic illness often feels like it's running our life, and maintaining a career, a family, or even a hobby in which we say we'll be somewhere once a week can be overwhelming. It can be stressful when we create an obligation to be somewhere. When will that next flare be? When will that day come when I can't get out of bed? Will I miss something important? How can I help myself so I'm less likely to have a medical day in? These are questions that we often ask ourselves. And living with uncertainty can be so complicated. I mean, honestly, we all live with uncertainty to some degree. Any of us could get ill and miss something we wanted to go to or have a change in plans. With chronic illness, this uncertainty can be a bit more amplified. We can often only hope and pray that we're well enough to go out when we need to or truly desire to, but it's constantly in the back of our mind as we don't want to let anyone down, you know? Not only that, but often the medical system can contain a lot of uncertainty for us, as doctors may be trying everything they can to find an issue, but aren't getting all the answers. I mean, they're people too, and navigating that system where we're like something's wrong and they have to figure out, and then that can take a lot of time. But being newly diagnosed can also present new challenges and have a learning curve of its own. Something I've learned along the way is to be able to forgive myself. I used to give myself such negative self-talk when I'd have to miss something I plan on to go to. Man, when did I have to miss something I planned to go to? It hurts. But I remember saying things to myself like, man, why did you have to be so sick today? You're so worthless that you can't even get out there and fake your way through this one. And why me? I mean, does any of that sound familiar? A lot of that leads to a heavier guilt load against yourself. Chances are people missed you at whatever place you should have been at, but chances also are they're probably getting past the whole ordeal before you are. They got distracted enough by their own lives and they're like, maybe next time. And you know, they're onto something. For many things, there will be a next time. That may not be the case for everything, but there are so many times where there will probably be another time for something similar, if not something different, yet worth it. We all have to cut the negative self-talk. Whatever negative words are in our minds, hearts, and seep through our mouth can and will wear on us. We need to press against it to help decrease stress and begin finding the value we truly hold. God gave us all value, and chronic illness doesn't disqualify you from that. Think of negative self-talk as putting blinders on. We may still see the path straight ahead, but we can't view the whole picture. Instead of thinking, I can't believe my body is being so stupid today, what a waste, start thinking, my body is telling me I need to rest. The sooner I rest, the sooner I will feel a bit better, and that's okay. It's okay to feel upset, angry, or disappointed with your situation. And can I be so bold as to say, instead of wallowing within the disappointment all day, think about, what can I do to begin to feel better? What will help me out a lot in the days to come? And start there. There's generally a verse that comes to mind when I think about physical weakness and not fitting society's mold. I remember Paul's weakness that he mentions in 2 Corinthians chapter 2, verse 19. This says, "But he said to me, my grace is sufficient for you, for my power is made perfect in weakness. Therefore I will boast all the more gladly about my weaknesses, so that Christ's power may rest on me." My physical body may at times be weak and unreliable, but by relying on God, His power, and His plans for my life, it will be made perfect. God will make up for what I can't. It's not always easy to let God take control, since as people, a lot of us love the ability to have control over things. Think about it. We love having that say in the house we live in, the clothes we wear, the food we eat, or when we go to bed. Instead, I remember that there are things that are going to happen within God's timing rather than my timing. I then focus on recovering, prayer, and seeking Him and following where He wants me next. There may have been many people in my life that believed I was a liar because I seemed great one day and was too ill the next, but you know what? Guess who isn't that way? God. God knows the truth, and He sees your struggles. He wants us to seek Him and rely on Him. In some of my darkest moments, God gave me grace. That is something that I hope we can all find peace in, that God gives us so much grace. While we wind down towards the end of this podcast, I hope to be back each Friday to explore various topics such as invisible illness, when you feel betrayed by your own body, when the fear of getting worse is real, and so much more. This week, let's all focus on forgiving ourselves, cutting out that negative, harmful self-talk, and allowing rest into our lives when we need it. Even if it's a short nap to prevent symptoms from getting worse, let's learn to embrace that time of peace. Your chronic illness doesn't make you a failure. It only means that your needs are different than what society expects. We struggle to fit in, but perhaps at this season in our lives, we weren't meant to fit in. We're all warriors, and the drumbeat we march to is a constantly changing tempo. Not everyone will enjoy that, but who cares what others are going to think? If you enjoyed today's podcast, hit that subscribe button so you don't miss out on the newly released content. If you found something here that spoke to you today, hit the like button. I enjoyed being able to share with you all today, and I hope that with each podcast I can continue to bring comfort and awareness to the chronic illness community. Again, you're not alone, and I want you all to focus on the positive moments this week, as minute as they may feel sometimes. But I thank you, and I hope to see you all again soon.